I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Superintendent of Education, Ellen Weaver, for sharing her musical talents with us today. Thank you. We are also pleased to have several of our partners with us today, and I wanted to encourage you to visit their tables and learn more. Whoops, the wind is whipping a little bit here, and learn more about their organizations. You will find them on either side of the stage, but I just wanted to give them a little shout out. With us today are Century Farms, the South Carolina Veterans Hall of Fame, South Carolina 1890 program, SC State 1890 program, the South Carolina Governor's Schools for Agriculture, and the South Carolina Department of Veterans Affairs. So thank you all for being here, and I would encourage everyone to check out all of the literature that they have. They're a big part of our agricultural heritage and otherwise. At this time, I would like to introduce our distinguished guests that are on stage with us, and I would like to ask as I do that, if you would stand, please. Carl Blackstone, the President and CEO of the Columbia Chamber. Major General William F. Grimsley, Chairman of the South Carolina American Revolution Sesquicentennial Commission. Hugh E. Weathers, South Carolina Commissioner of Agriculture. Ellen Weaver, South Carolina State Superintendent of Education. And our Honorable Governor Henry D. McMaster. Major General Robin B. Stilwell, Adjutant General of the State of South Carolina. Major General Jeff Jones, Deputy Adjutant General of the State of South Carolina. And then J. Canny Heath, who is Junior, the President of the South Carolina State Fair. Thank you all for being with us. I know everyone is busy, but we're very grateful that you can take a few minutes to join us for this very unique ceremony today. Again, it's an honor to welcome you to the South Carolina State Fair, a celebration that has been at the heart of our state for generations. Today, as we gather for America 250 Day, we're reminded that our story, the story of South Carolina, is deeply rooted in the soil of agriculture. From its earliest days, the fair has stood as a proud tribute to the farmers, ranchers, and innovators who have built and sustained our state. Agriculture is not just a part of our past, it's the foundation of who we are. From the livestock barns to the fields of crops, these fairgrounds come alive each year with sights, sounds, and the spirit of South Carolina's agricultural heritage. And we're proud to showcase the partners who keep that mission growing, ensuring that future generations understand the vitality and importance of our industry. But the South Carolina State Fair is also something more. It's a reflection of America itself. Across our nation, fairs have long been places where families come together, where hard work is celebrated, and where communities reconnect. Whether you're here to admire a prize-winning heifer, enjoy a concert, explore the art exhibits, or taste that famous fair food that we've already been talking about backstage, you're part of a tradition nearly 2 centuries in the making. Today, as we honor our nation's 250th anniversary, we also celebrate the shared values that make both America and our fair so special. Creativity, innovation, pride, and joy in just simply being together. As we look ahead to the next chapter of our state and nation, let's remember that our strength has always come from our roots, from our land, our people, and our shared commitment to growth and community. Now it's my pleasure to welcome to the stage Carl Blackstone, President and CEO of the Chamber, who's going to say a few words for us.
Thank you, Nancy. Good afternoon. It's great to see so many people here today on an awesome fair day. This is one of the best times of year to be in Columbia, and for those that have traveled to Columbia, we welcome y'all here. You know, Columbia and the fair have gone back for generations, and it's great to be here to celebrate what the fair does best, bring people together. And we're celebrating our nation's birthday, 250th, but we also need to look at what makes up our history here in Columbia. If you look around our state, I'm sure the governor loves to talk about how we're the most military-friendly state in the country. And we have a special place in our heart for the military here in Columbia as well. Our friends in the upstate make great automobiles. Our friends down the low country make wonderful airplanes. We make troops right here at Fort Jackson. Woo! Fort Jackson's the home. We do all the basic training. It's about 55% of all basic training for the U.S. Army is right here. So we build troops, and we're proud of it. Well, but the fair does a lot to celebrate military, helps us tremendously with our work with our military community and families here. But they also work with education. They work with agriculture, and it really is about community. In addition to that, they bring a heck of a lot of money here to the business community here in Columbia once a year, and we're very, very appreciative of all their hard work to make a great place to bring you families and entertain folks. So, Nancy, thank you for all your help, your work. Candy, appreciate your leadership, what you do. We're glad y'all are here, and we're glad to be a part of this celebration, our nation's 250th. Thank you.
Thank you, Carl. Now it's my pleasure to welcome to the podium Major General William F. Grimsley, who will say a few words for us.
Well, thank you, Nancy, and welcome all y'all to the State Fair. You know, imagine if we were sitting here 250 years ago in 1775, and what might those people have seen here, those South Carolinians at the time, at the beginning of our American Revolution? Well, there wouldn't be any Ferris wheels, probably not nearly as much good food, and you'd have a wide variety of people here who came to be part of South Carolina from a wide, diverse group of places. So some of them came from the low country, that came from Barbados and other parts of the Caribbean on boats, both the planters themselves, enslaved people with them. Some people came from Britain and other parts of Europe on ships and by other means to get here. A whole bunch of people came here on ships other ways, from the Middle Passage, from West Africa. And then a lot of people started to migrate down here, and right before the Revolution, from other colonies, from Virginia and Pennsylvania and other ones, down the Wagon Road, and that was the bulk of the people here in the Midlands. But as all of these people came together to be part of the fabric of society in 1775 in South Carolina, they were about to be faced with a choice. Do we stay with our King George III in Great Britain and his rule in Parliament and others, or do we make a shift and change to go to a different government based on some choices? Well, we know what happened. We made choices. People in South Carolina made a lot of choices, in both directions. And the war started in Massachusetts, and it had started before what would have been this day in 1775. And it was brought to a head in the beginnings of South Carolina in a variety of things, and really in Charleston in 1776 in the Battle of Sullivan's Island. But it really came to the fore in 1780 and 81 and 82 with a great move in the Southern strategy, where Great Britain decided they were going to excise South Carolina and Georgia away from the other colonies and turn this, what had been the richest colony of the 28 colonies in North America, the richest colony, South Carolina, and make that part of a separate portion of Great Britain. Excise away Massachusetts and New York and other parts up in the Middle Atlantic and North. Because the belief is that this was a lucrative place to have. Loyalists would reign here, and we would keep this as part of Great Britain. Well, that erupted into what we call the Southern Campaign, and the war that turned the end of the war, which was fought and won right here in South Carolina by many of our ancestors and others who came to be part of the fight here. It wasn't easy, as wars are never easy. It wasn't short, as wars are rarely short. In fact, it was terribly bloody and long, and it essentially became a civil war between citizens here in South Carolina, making their choices and deciding. But ultimately, and our friend Sam Newell here, representing His Majesty's United Kingdom Consulate from Atlanta, our friends from Great Britain, well understand that when you get groups of people who have come from like backgrounds who suddenly decide they're going to split, it in fact becomes a terrible, oftentimes tragic loss of life. But at the end of the day, what resulted from it, a seminal turning point in the history of the world, is the United States of America. One right here in South Carolina. Through blood, sweat, tears, turmoil, and you can tell people I talk to all the time, they always clap. But it was run right here in South Carolina as we chased Lord Cornwallis and others out because he said, I can't beat Carolina. And went to Virginia, hemmed in by the French Navy and beaten by the French and American armies, surrendered, and the war went on here in South Carolina for a couple more years till the British evacuated in 1782. The treaty in 1783, and with one minor exception of 20-some years later, we've been the fastest of friends ever since, united allies in partnership from across the Atlantic in this unique relationship. And so it's extraordinarily important that here in 2025, at the beginnings of the 250th celebration of the American Revolution, we got to look at this in the broad spectrum of history. And in fact, celebrate and commemorate the actions that happened 250 years ago. Perhaps more, or even, well, certainly more importantly than that, is take the lessons learned from that time, everything this grand experiment has created in the 250 years hence, and here in 2025, and what will be the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence next July the 4th, and commit ourselves to the future of the grand experiment, to be part of the United States of America, this great citizenship opportunity each of us have, no matter where you came from or when you got here, and certainly in South Carolina, to remember that it was one right here to cement the blessings of liberty today, tomorrow, and into perpetuity on behalf of us all. So thank you.
Thank you. Now I'd like to welcome Hugh Weathers to the podium, please.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Nancy. It is good to be here. This time of year is one of my favorites. Few years ago, I was in that building with my dairy heifers, showing them. Got a few blue ribbons somewhere in the attic to prove my efforts. Best thing about it, I got out of school those days, so it was a favorite time of mine. But now here I am back, still enjoying it. The fall is a great time for South Carolina agriculture. It is time for harvest. All the work that farmers have put in all year long, now they get to realize those in the fall when we harvest corn and soybeans and peanuts and cotton. So if you ride the back roads of South Carolina and you see some of that going on, just stop and enjoy watching to see how your food or your clothing or maybe the roofs over your head, where they actually start. That's a part of South Carolina agriculture. Not only the 22,000 plus farmers, but a great team of leaders in South Carolina agriculture. Let me mention some of those. And while I'm doing that, this ceremony is to commemorate our history. 250 years of our country, 150 plus years of the State Fair, 140 something years of the South Carolina Department of Agriculture. But the groups who are here, you'll see and recognize, focused on the future of agriculture. So who's our leaders for the future of South Carolina farming and agriculture? Some of them are probably here today. Let me just mention a few. Our 4-H State Teen Council is here with Dr. Ashley Burns. And like I was a few years ago, there are over 110,000 young people in South Carolina participating in various 4-H programs. Also, the South Carolina State 1890 program. Eddie, you're not one of the youth, but you can represent them over there. How about that? But, oh, there you are. I see there. Y'all need to sit together. South Carolina State delivers over 700 programs and activities and workshops, again, focused on perhaps the smaller farmers across South Carolina, but a great presence and a great team partner for South Carolina agricultural leadership. The FFA, always recognizable in the blue and gold jackets, regardless of the temperature. They're out here, so thanks to their Director Nettles and others in South Carolina, we have over 14,000 members statewide with 125 chapters across the state. And do yourself a favor, if you've ever had the chance to attend an FFA function, maybe it's a state convention or whatnot, go and just watch the future leadership in development. I went a few years ago and I said, this is not your daddy's FFA, because they are all about developing leaders, and one day South Carolina will be the better for it. The Governor's School at John De La Howe. There we go, over here again. If you don't know, over in McCormick County, the Governor's School for Agriculture, one of the 3 governor's schools in South Carolina, is the only full-time, on-campus school dedicated to the training of agriculture in the United States. Very proud of the way they come and sort of raise themselves up from previous uses of that property, and doing great jobs with hands-on training in agriculture, agribusiness, land management, all of the things we're all concerned about. What's the future of South Carolina look like? Well, a lot of it is in the hands of the folks we're talking about. Clemson Extension is here. See Dr. Dobbins and Dr. Dobbins. No, there's a few others. But Clemson Extension plays a big part in South Carolina agriculture, working with farmers in every county of the state, producing new leaders at the College of Agriculture. That's a great partner of ours. But also this week, working tireless hours to help manage the programs and the shows and the contests for the young folks with their animals. So, and finally, I represent the South Carolina Department of Agriculture. I've been your commissioner for a few years now. We're 140 plus years old. There's no truth to the rumor. I was working the day the department started. Haven't been around that long. But the State Fair was begun in 1869, and 10 years later, the Department of Agriculture was begun. And across this country, many of the departments of agriculture manage the state fairs because, as Nancy said, they're all agricultural based. In South Carolina, I am deeply indebted to Kenny Heath and his board and Nancy for managing it because they do such a wonderful job, and especially with the devotion to scholarships for young people in South Carolina. So the Department of Agriculture has a responsibility for growing the great industry of agriculture. It has some challenges right now for our farmers. Times are a little bit on the lean side, if you will, for producing crops in South Carolina. So all of the people you've heard me describe have a part in trying to create new opportunities and a brighter future for South Carolina agriculture. This is a great partnership. We've talked about that. It's a great partnership with the fair. Thankful to Nancy for the job that she does. And who knows, maybe I'll go and reminisce and find a dairy heifer and walk her around the ring and compete with somebody younger than my grandchildren. So thank you all.
Thank you, Mike. I've been here for 41 years myself, so this is all natural. So it's been great industry. So now it's my pleasure to welcome Ellen Weaver, our State Superintendent of Education, to the podium for a special presentation.
Good afternoon. Okay, we're going to try that again. Good afternoon. It is such a delight to be here. Are you proud to be a South Carolinian today? That's right. I know that I am, and it is such an honor to be here today to celebrate the incredible things that are happening in education. So to our students, to our educators, to the members of the community who are here today, welcome. We are so proud to be here, not only celebrating our state fair, celebrating the incredible legacy of agriculture that we have in our state, Commissioner Weathers, but we are celebrating our history and the role that South Carolina played in securing American freedom. What I want every single student in the state of South Carolina to know at the end of this SC 250 celebration is that the battle for American freedom may have started on the streets of Lexington and Concord, but it was won in the fields, forests, and swamps of our South Carolina. And to that end, we have so many incredible initiatives that we are rolling out to support our educators in teaching our students about South Carolina's pivotal role that we played in the American Revolution. You can find those resources at palmettocivicsproject.com. One of the really exciting partnerships that we just rolled out was with the American Battlefield Trust. They have created what they call the Liberty Trail here in South Carolina. Because what you may not know is that there were more revolutionary battles and skirmishes fought on South Carolina soil than in any other state. And that is something that we should be proud of. Freedom was won here. And another initiative that we have started, which is why I'm here to talk to you today, is our Palmetto Pioneers series. Our Palmetto Pioneers series is creating posters that tell the history of famous South Carolinians, their lasting impact and legacy, and a virtue, character trait, or life skill that our students can take away from their example. And many of you may be familiar with Francis Marion, who is one of the Palmetto Pioneers who we are going to unveil today, known as the Swamp Fox. You may have even seen a movie that was created about him called The Patriot. So people are very familiar with Francis Marion. But today I want to talk about the other patriot that we are unveiling today, William Jasper, and the legend of our Palmetto flag. Have you ever wondered how South Carolina became the Palmetto State? Well, the good news is you're going to find out today. So, go back in your imagination, June 28, 1776, what we now call Carolina Day. There were patriots at Sullivan's Island down in Charleston. These patriots were in a humble palmetto log fort. Why palmetto logs? Because it was an abundant natural resource. They were facing down a much larger British force. In fact, the greatest navy at that time in the history of the world, the British Navy. And the British anticipated that they would be able to sweep into Charleston against the makeshift opposition of the Patriots. But little did they know the fierce bravery of our patriots, as well as the resilience of those humble palmetto logs, which repelled the British cannonballs. And so after a grueling 9-hour battle, our patriots at Sullivan's Island won the first major patriot victory of the American Revolution, sending hope and inspiration to patriots up and down the 13 colonies. And so that is how we became the Palmetto State. The crescent that is on our flag was on the Liberty flag, as well as the headgear of those patriots who fought that day at Sullivan's Island. And that humble palmetto log fort held up against fierce opposition and cannonade and saved our Charleston and inspired our troops and our patriots. And so that is how South Carolina became the Palmetto State. And so we are going to proudly unveil these posters. They will be at the SC 250 display. And these posters, again, are available free of charge to every teacher, to every student, to every citizen at palmettocivicsproject.com. Thank you so much for your time. And again, go South Carolina.
All right, well, if you weren't fired up now, you've heard Superintendent Weaver, so thank you, ma'am, for all that. It's my honor now to introduce our Chief Executive, and no greater patriot, no bigger supporter of South Carolina, or leader of all of us in this great celebration of who we are, why we are the greatest state and the greatest nation. So it's my honor to introduce our governor, Henry D. McMaster.
Thank you, General. Thank you. Thank you, General. Well, I got a note here. General Stilwell, will you please meet your mama at the Rocket? Y'all remember that? Remember when that was the biggest thing in the world, that rocket? And I can see some gray hairs out there that I guarantee you might have looked at the hogs and the cattle and the bulls and all that, and then ridden on those rides. I plan on looking at some of those animals, but I'm not getting on a single one of those rides, and I'm scared to eat one of those elephant ears. You gain 2 pounds before you get home. Yes, sir. I'll be brief. Just a few things that have already been touched on. I'd like to add on just a little bit, and that's particularly for you young folks, is you need to know that this state is unique. There's not another state that has the history that's had the impact on this country as ours has. Most of us don't know it. They used to teach that in the schools years ago. Somehow it faded away. But it's coming back now. The scholars are saying it again. What's been said, he was right. When Cornwallis realized he couldn't beat us, he was the leader of the British troops. They had the Southern strategy. They were going to cut the rest of the country, the other colonies, off from the South. They knew that they had to stop the material and people coming up from the South, or they wouldn't be able to win, because they weren't winning in the North. So what they do? They failed. And it was after the Battle of Cowpens, it was after Kings Mountain, when that was the first big defeat. But you know, there weren't any, as has been stated by General Grenville, you know how many British troops, British regulars, were up there in Kings Mountain? 0. That was the Patriots against the Loyalists, led by Bannister Tarleton, bloody Bannister Tarleton, who was in the movie, who was mentioned earlier, The Patriot. And he was bloody. They called him No Quarter Tarleton, or Tarleton's Quarter, because he just killed everybody. He didn't leave any wounded on the battlefield. Battle of Camden, the largest defeat in the entire war. Over 1,000 young men and some older ones laid down on the battlefield, in the worst defeat in the whole battle, in the whole war. Over 1,000. They had a ceremony. They discovered some of the bones and trinkets and bullets and metal pieces just recently, a few years ago, over there in the pine forest, where they lay buried in just makeshift graves as the Patriots fled the battlefield. Some of them as young, judging from the bones, as 14, 15 years old, lay they dead. They'd never seen a charge of bayonets. They'd never seen such precision as they saw that day. And they fled that battlefield. Terrible loss. But it turned around in turned around in Kings Mountain, and then turned around in Cowpens. In Cowpens, that was a terrible defeat for the British. And to jump ahead, when they left, one of the sites that I wish there was a photograph of was in 1782, when the British were leaving Charleston, which they had occupied. There were 130 British warships coming in and out of that harbor to take away about 10 or 11,000 British troops and some loyalists going back to Great Britain. What a great victory. South Carolina is where the war was won. The last shots were fired up in New England, but it was won here. And it was Cornwallis himself who referred to the gamecock. He said, we will be able to get the gamecock. We can fight him, but we can't find that damned fox, referring to Francis Marion, who, as you know, we just recently purchased Snow's Island over in the PD, where they say, the state did with your money, where they say his camp was. They weren't able to find it, and so far we can't find it either, but we're pretty sure that it's over there, so we will keep looking. But the history of this state, of its people, has been mentioned. Originally, where the colonies come from, where the people come from. They came from 8, or maybe it was 9 European countries, France, England, Germany, those places, others, and all Sweden. And they also came from, I think it's 19 West African cultures that today make up 4 West African countries, but they also came from thousands of Native Americans or Indians who've been here for 10,000 years. But you get all those people together. Some came here because of religious persecution. They couldn't get business licenses because of their religion. Others didn't want to come, but were brought on British ships. And then you had some who were just coming for a better life and had a hard time getting here. A lot of people died. And the people of this state, starting back then, been through everything. We've been through every war. We've been through every natural disaster, from hurricanes to fires to earthquakes. The earthquake of 1889, I believe, was felt in New York City. It was an off-the-scale earthquake. We have been through everything, up, down, good, bad, everything. And that is what has turned this state into a beacon for other states and other people. That is why business leaders from around this world want to come to South Carolina to hire our people to work for them in all capacities, as scientists, as workers in the plants, for building airplanes, building passenger planes in Charleston, North Charleston, building fighter jets in Greenville, building automobiles all over the place. They want to come here. And I'll tell you what two of them told me. I heard it twice from two of the chairmen of BMW in their 25th and 30th anniversary. And they were celebrating that magnificent plant. I think they have 15 in the world, and the best one is in Spartanburg, South Carolina. And they said, both of them said, I would rather have, talking to the audience, said, I'd rather have your hand in mine and your word than a signed contract. That's why they started calling us the handshake state, because we give our word and we keep it. And also Mark Clark, who was four-star general, World War II, later president of the Citadel, said there's more patriotism per square inch right here than any place in the whole world. Patriotism, loyalty, skill, determination, resilience. That's what we have, and that's why this is such a great place to live. And I met someone, I guess I'd call it someone, it feels like it's a person to me, down in the Bidler Forest the other day. I met a Tupelo cypress tree that's 1,800 years old. It's the oldest uncut old-growth forest in the world. Those are the kind of things, besides people, that we have in South Carolina. I wish the young people could learn the history that has been ignored, been forgotten for so many years, but it's right there. And if you go back and look in it, you will find something related to you, your family, the place you live, or something that I hope will make you proud of this state. I want to thank all of you for being here, particularly all these federal employees that are working on federal money, that not talking because they're not supposed to, because they're not getting paid. General Jones still will, but they're still here, and they for us. Certainly, and I know that a few others. I see Cody Simpson, the U.S. Department of Agriculture Farm Service Agency is here. Thank you very much. And by the way, the farmers, the military, and those that wear the uniforms form the unshakable backbone of this state. We have 8 major military institutions in this state. It's always the people. So thank you for coming out. I hope you enjoy the fair. Learn your history, study your history, and pass it on. Because we got a ways to go to the top, but we're going to get to the top, and we're ahead of everybody else right now. Thank you. Nancy, I have a proclamation. Nancy, if you'll hold it, I'll read it. It's very pretty. State of South Carolina, Governor's Proclamation. Whereas, as the United States prepares to mark the 250th anniversary of its founding on July 4, 2026, communities across this great country are called to celebrate with unity and patriotism. And whereas, the South Carolina 250 Commission is dedicated to celebrating and promoting South Carolina's role in the American Revolution by educating, engaging, and inspiring South Carolinians and visitors. And whereas public celebrations have long upheld our Republic's dedication to liberty, justice, and equality before the law. And whereas state fairs are long-standing American traditions that bring citizens together to honor agriculture, showcase livestock and bountiful harvests, and celebrate traditions that shape our nation. And whereas South Carolina played a key role in America's founding, as scholars recognize that the Revolutionary War was won in South Carolina with over 100 battles and skirmishes fought in our state during Britain's unsuccessful Southern campaign, including the pivotal Patriot victories at the battles of Kings Mountain and Cowpens. And whereas since its founding in 1869, the South Carolina State Fair has brought people together to celebrate agriculture, education, and community, which remain pillars of both our state and national identity. And whereas the 2025 South Carolina State Fair offers an opportunity to honor America's 250th anniversary and engage South Carolinians in this historic milestone through patriotic programming and cultural participation. Now, therefore, I, Henry Doggett McMaster, Governor of the great state of South Carolina, do hereby proclaim October 9, 2025 as America 250 Day at the South Carolina State Fair throughout the state, and encourage all South Carolinians to take part in recognizing our state's role in the founding of our great nation and celebrating 250 years of American independence. Signed by your proud, happy governor.